What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Handmade and Beyond podcast. I'm your host, LL, leader of the handmadeandbeyond.com website and community. I'm a self-employed entrepreneur, an Etsy expert, and business coach who's figured out how to make my entire living with my handmade business. Each week, I'll dive into strategies and success tips to help you with your handmade business, with Etsy, and everything in between. Let's dive in. Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the Handmade and Beyond podcast, where we talk about handmade sellers, growing their handmade businesses, growing their Etsy businesses, taking their shops to the next level. And I want to give you guys as many tips and tactics and gold nuggets as possible so you guys can grow your businesses. Today, I got an absolutely fantastic podcast for you. Now, I'm going to warn you, this is a very, very long podcast, but it is an awesome podcast. This is a member of the Handmade and Beyond community. She's been a member with me for some time now. Marie, she's the owner of Paws Apparel on Etsy. So she sells, in case you haven't figured it out, she sells dog clothing. And she's extremely good at it. But that wasn't always the case. We dive into her story. She's been sewing for over 35 years. She used to make children's clothing, and then she pivoted to selling dog clothing. And she started selling clothing in brick and mortar shops and different avenues like that, and then started to dive into Etsy in 2017, but didn't, like many Etsy sellers when they start, they don't really take it super serious. They take it very slow. In 2019, she started to take it a little bit more serious, dove in, tried to figure out what works, what didn't work, put a lot more time into her business. And now she's absolutely starting to kill it. Her shop is growing. She's making more money online than she's ever thought that she could because she's spent the time to learn and invest in her business and try new things and put herself out there. Not to mention she makes super high quality, amazing dog clothes and dresses and stuff like that. She's also been featured in a couple of magazines now. People have found her through Etsy and have been able to feature her in magazines. She's in the New York Dog Show. Some of her clothes are in the New York Dog Show. She's in parades. She's really starting to take off, but it's because she took the steps initially to put herself online, learn, and grow her shop. It's amazing what can happen when you put yourself out there. This is a long one. Hang on for the ride. Tons of good nuggets in here. We talk about pretty much everything under the sun. I can't even remember everything that we talk about, but you guys are going to love it. Marie is awesome. I'm super happy that she's doing well. And without further ado, let's dive in.
Hey.
Hi, Marie.
Can you? Okay, there you go.
Now I can see you. Awesome. I love your backdrop.
Oh, listen, I'm right in the middle of this little shop.
Yeah, you got a lot going on back there.
Oh, wait, let me show you something. Can you see that dress?
Yeah.
The pink one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just about to finish that. That's for the New York show.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So
what type of dog is that for?
This is I think it's a little Yorkie.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So most of them are
smaller.
The majority of them are Yorkies, Shih Tzus, Chihuahuas. You know, that's usually the ones that are, but every now and then I get some big dogs.
Yeah.
Like I got an order the other day. The girth on the dog is 37 inches.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
So when you finish, it does. It looks like a child's dress.
Yeah.
When you're done, you're like, the lady says, well, can you make it? I'm like, well, yeah, I can make it. And you have to be willing to pay for it.
Yeah, it's a lot more material for sure. But yeah, you don't see too as many big dogs in dresses for sure. It's more the little dainty dogs.
Well, I have to admit, I've made lots of big dog dresses, but I made one. It was a Mardi Gras outfit. And, when people ask me to make them that big, I say yes, but in my head, I'm thinking, because I don't know what they're going to look like. They don't look like the cute little dainty things. So I made this dress and put it on this dog. And I have to admit, she was absolutely beautiful. And I was floored. I'm like, I'm so happy because this was a lot of material.
Yeah. I guess just share, obviously we could see all the dog stuff in the background. We've been talking, about your dog outfits and stuff like that. But I guess for the people that are listening, kind of share, a little bit of your background and, what you do as far as how you got started on Etsy and your background as far as making your dog stuff.
It's probably been close to 15 years now. I've always sewn all my life, and I used to design and make children's clothing. And then one day, my youngest daughter was working in a pretty upscale dog boutique in Phoenix, in Scottsdale. And her boss said, "Hey, can your mom make us some dresses?" And so my daughter came home and asked, and I went over there and I said, we talked about what he might want. And, what in his head did he have in mind? So I drew some sketches out and I put some dresses together and I brought it over. And that was the beginning. So for me, I've always enjoyed the creative part of it, putting it together, matching the fabrics and designing. I always try to be a little different. I want to be unique. So I started there in that little boutique, and then I had friends who kept saying, "Well, we want some. We want dresses." And then I had friends who were groomers and friends who were veterinarians, and so then it grew from there. So
yeah, word of mouth can be a powerful tool for sure.
But at that point, I had just retired from the community college system.
Okay.
And I was kind of in limbo of, what do I want to do? Well, I'm not a person who likes to just sit around. So I thought I was going to go to our little neighborhood school, elementary school, where I had a friend who was a vice principal there. And I was going to go read and volunteer in some of the classrooms because I had 30 years in education.
Yeah.
So I go down there, long story short, after about 15 years of teaching, I retired again. So I gave up the dog business for a while, and I was still doing it, but not like I was before. And then recently, like 3 years ago, my husband decided he wanted to retire full time and move back to Mississippi because that's where he's from. And I thought, I'm not teaching. I am not going to go back to teaching.
You're done with that.
I'm done. So I thought, I'm going to do my dog business full time. And, funny things, when I first started this, my husband said, "Did you fall down the stairs? Did you hit your head? Who makes dresses for dogs?" And I
said, you don't understand the dog market at all.
I said, obviously you haven't researched the market.
Yeah.
I said, secondly, they probably said that to the man who invented bottled water. And he said, okay, point taken. So then I started, and he started to see a few paychecks and things, and he was like, "Oh, do you need to go to the store and buy fabric today?" Because he couldn't believe it was taken off. So then we moved here, and I still had some of my customer base in Phoenix and stuff, but I wasn't on Etsy. And when we moved here, I was in shops in the French Quarter in New Orleans. So I had some boutiques and things where I was selling there and places there. And then different things happened, and COVID and all that. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm just going to go full force with Esty. I'm going to put all my energy into that. And so now I'm to the point, I just hired someone part-time.
Oh, nice.
And, my biggest challenge today is keeping up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm at the point where I have to ask myself the question, okay, how much bigger do you want to go, and how fast do you want to go? Because it's the challenge of finding that balance and keeping up with everything and making sure what's important to me is, the quality and the uniqueness of the designs. I don't want to lose any of that. So, that's where I am at this point. But I have seen, like, my first year wasn't even a year. I started in October of that year, and no one knew I was even on ST. Okay. So the next year, I had several shops in the French Quarter, but I wasn't doing full force on ST. So I didn't have a lot of sales.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'll be honest with you. Last year, I made a total of about under $1,800.
Yeah, but that's still $1,800 more than
It's
probably a lot
$1,800.
of people made on Etsy. So there's a lot
But
of
you
people.
know what? This year, I have months where I've way surpassed that. So from about September of last year, when I really put forth the effort into SD, and then I got noticed, and I was getting more, clicks and things like that. It has dramatically changed. And in fact, this month alone, wow, it's been the best month I've ever had. And, it's about 3 times what I made last year.
That's awesome.
So yeah, again, you have to ask yourself, okay, when you go to the next level, how are you going to be prepared?
Yeah, it's like the old school rap song, "More money, more problems." It's like you your first problem is trying to make that money, and then once you start to get yourself to
Momentum.
the next level, then it's a whole nother kind of set of things to figure out.
Yes,
But I mean,
that's it.
it's stuff that you can figure out. But it's always a good problem to have. I always say that. It's a great problem to have to figure out.
I've gone from 3 to 5 orders a week to 3 to 5 orders a day.
That's awesome.
So that,
And that, I mean,
my husband describes it as, you're the dog who caught the tire. What are you going to do now?
yeah. But I mean, that's super inspiring for people that are listening to this too, because it's not like you decided to start Etsy one day and then just put up a couple listings and let it ride. You've been doing this, I'm safe to say it sounds like nonstop since you started Etsy. You haven't stopped, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the difference. And that's what really, I think, separates the successful shops apart from the non-successful ones. Is I think people think that Etsy or online's like magic. If they just put something out there, all these people are going to come and buy it. But it's really no different than opening your own store. You can't just set up a table alongside the road and put a couple of products on that table and everyone's going to stop and buy them. Even if they're the greatest products in the world, it just doesn't work like that. And it's the same thing where it goes to, online. You have to look at it like, yeah, it may be a hobby to start, but you still have to look at it from a business lens.
Yeah. And, you're absolutely right. For the longest, my husband called it my hobby that was paying for itself.
Mm-hmm.
He no longer calls it a hobby. He refers to it as my business
Once
now.
you start making a profit, it's no longer a hobby, for sure.
So, but the thing is that, you're absolutely right. you have to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's going to be times where you're going to question yourself and say, man, am I doing the right thing? Do I have the right product? Does anybody even want what I have to sell?
Yeah.
You'll have those days. But you can't let that interfere with what your drive is going to be and your focus of, what is it do I want long term? So in the end, where do I want to see myself?
Mm-hmm.
And keep working towards that goal. I think it's important that you have people who encourage you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a daughter who also is on Etsy. She's been at it, I think this is her 7th year, and she makes jewelry.
Nice.
But she makes 6 figures. So she'll say, Mom, it's okay, you can do this, and don't worry about that part. And I'll say, well, when I make your salary, I won't worry about anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But
a
it
journey.
shows,
Yeah.
if you're consistent and you don't give in, just keep focusing and keep moving with it.
Well, that's what I tell people all the time is you haven't failed if you haven't stopped. You can't fail at it if you haven't stopped. It's like, maybe this is a terrible analogy, but it's like you're getting into a boxing ring, and maybe you get punched and you have to pivot and try something different, try another defense, try another punch. Like the same thing when selling online. Like you put up your stuff, you're probably going to get punched in the face, meaning no one's going to buy your stuff right away because you're probably not familiar with SEO. You're not just born knowing SEO. You're not just born knowing Etsy SEO, which is, different in its own right. You're not born knowing the sales and marketing strategies. You're not, you have to learn that stuff. And what you sell first, if you're a creative person, what your first idea, your first niche may not even be the one that's going to ultimately be successful. A lot of creators, people on Etsy, they have a lot of the problems that they have is they have 3 things that they want to sell, like 3 different niches. And that's kind of the problem to start. It's like, which one do I sell first? I don't know which one's going to be successful. Well, try them all and see which one works, first of all. But if you try one, it doesn't work, just pivot down the road. But a lot of people just don't give it enough time. They don't put enough into it, and like you said, that consistency over time to give it a chance to work and keep chipping away at it and just using the stuff that they're learning along the way. That I don't want to quote unquote.
I think something also that I've seen, especially for myself, is that I look back at some of the first items I made. I don't even know how I sold them. But, they're not even comparison. They don't even look like the same person made them.
Yeah.
In comparison to what I do today. And how did that happen? Well, it happened over, like you said, continuing to work at it, which gave me the opportunity to improve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd always sewn, but it was, being confident enough to step out of the box and say, you know what, I'm gonna go with this, and we'll see how it goes. Mm-hmm. And there's got to be somebody out there it's going to appeal to.
And you refine as you learn with selling online, which is different than selling in person, you also learn to refine your processes at home as well. Like you said, you got better at your craft. You're not the same creator that you were when you first started. Same thing with me when I first started screen printing and doing my own designs and stuff like that. I look back at some of the stuff that I created and it was terrible. I used the worst materials. I used the worst machinery, but that's what I had to work with,
Right. Yeah.
And you start with what you got, you kind of put things together, but then when you grow over time, you start to refine your processes, get faster at stuff. And you're doing stuff where it's like so time consuming at first because you didn't know there was another way. And then you're like, right. Why did I do it this way for so long? Like, for instance, this is such a stupid thing, but for the longest time, I would print out all my labels. on regular computer paper, and I would cut out each individual label, and then I would put that label, I would tape it with shipping tape to each packing slip, and I was doing like 10 to 20 labels at a time. It would take me like an hour to do that. And I'm like, and then I found out that there was printable label paper. And I'm like, oh my God, what was I doing? I was spending all this time. And I did that for a while too. I was like, there has to be a better way. And then I got online and started looking it up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I do the printable? I was doing this for months, and it was such an obvious
funny. That is funny.
Yeah, it's just like such a stupid thing, but when you start, you just don't know any better. And then you're like, holy crap, I just got all that time back. And it's like little things, in what you create along the way that you just get faster at, better at. You find materials in, cheaper materials, and you start to get your prices down, but it's part of the journey. You just don't come out of the gate.
Well, and that, I think too, when you're first starting out, I mean, it is one thing to be focused on your craft and trying to get that out, and something that, you feel is going to be presentable that someone would want to buy. The other part of that is exactly what you said. There's a totally different part of the house where you have to find materials. They might be cheaper, but the question is, are they of quality? And then that takes time to do the research. Then you're comparing prices, then you figure out, okay, I can order this and it's going to be a lot cheaper, but it's coming from China, so I'll get it in December when I need it in April. So you learn those ropes. I have ordered stuff before and gotten it in, and it's like, my first reaction was, where did this come from?
It took so long, you forgot about it.
It didn't even look like what it was supposed to look like. And I'd have to look at the company and say to myself, when did I order this? So you learn that. You learn the little things, like you said, the labels. It's all about, time saving. That you equate time as money. So if I'm spending, 15 hours on one dress, I'm never going to get it done. And so I've had to learn things for myself. I've learned how to basically better multitask and manage my time. And I know for me, like, if I can get 4 to 5 dresses cut out at once, and everything that needs to go with it, whether it's buttons, lace, whatever, and put them all together in their own individual pile, and then start sewing, I can get those 5 dresses made in one day. But if I take, one dress, cut it out, sew it, cut out another dress, then, I'm adding, I might get 2 dresses made in a day. And then a lot of times, one of the things I also do is I custom make outfits. So, they send me their dog's measurements, and I make it according to the dog's measurements so that it fits correctly. Sometimes people either try to smash them into an outfit or, it's so big, they said, I don't understand why it turns. Well, it doesn't fit. It's like baggy pants, okay?
Yeah, that's like my mom insists on, she's probably gonna hear this podcast and not be happy. But anyway, she for a while, she was insisting on buying my dogs. I have 2 Pekingese, 2 little dogs. And she is insisting on buying them a Halloween costume every last 5 years. It would always be either too small or too big. Like, she got I think it was a Yoda costume the one year, and it was just hanging. Yeah. It was just hanging off. So we still put them in the costumes, and they're like all draped, hanging off of them. And we would take our pictures. And they don't like, especially my older Pekingese. He does not. Yeah. He does not like being dressed. if you dress him, he will not move. He'll sit there and not move. And then if you leave him long enough, he'll just he does this like howling scream.
Oh,
It's
that's
just
funny.
and it's like, it sounds like a creature and like a small child's a cross between that. So the first time people hear it, they like stop in their tracks. And he doesn't do it all the time, but every once in a while he'll just do it, and people will be like, "Oh my God, is your dog turning into a demon?" But so yeah, so it's always funny. We got a kick out of the costumes.
Well, and I think that brings up another good point. You have to know your customers. You have to know your audience. My customers, their pets it's like their children. Okay. And when we talk about things that they want for their dogs, you're talking dead serious. And when I first started this business, I got some requests that I was like, what? And so I had to learn to work on my facial expressions, because I got some really bizarre requests like, are you serious? Now, people, I still get some that are pretty way out there. And I just look at them and I say, sure, how many? So in these, they're sincere when they're asking for this. And so you have to know your audience. And if you don't have the same kind of passion that around the items like your customers do, then it's going to be challenging to try to sell it, because they're interested in buying something that's going to bring them some kind of gratification, no matter what the product is. And so, you have to feel passionate about that yourself. And I think that's a big thing too. Always asking yourself the question of, why am I in this? Why am I doing it? And, if one part of it is it doesn't bring you any pleasure, there's going to be some long, hard days.
Yeah. And you brought up two really important points there. I mean, the first is, listening to your customers. And I don't know how many times that I've had someone ask for something custom, so that's a whole nother animal, is offering customizations in your shop. Should you do it? Shouldn't you do it? Goes back to how much time is it going to take you? Is it worth it? For me, I don't do a lot of custom stuff, because I do all my own designs. I do all my own screen printing still. While I probably shouldn't, I still do. I need to outsource that or get some help. But anyways, I was printing all morning. And so for me, doing custom work takes a lot of extra time. So I don't usually do it unless it's for like a bulk order. However, there are instances where people will ask me for something custom, and I'm like, that is a really great idea. So if I think that I can sell a decent amount of that, then I will do it. And then I'll put the item up for sale. And then almost every time that I've done that, they've been bestsellers, which is funny, because they're asking you because they probably can't find it anywhere, or they like your style. They like your style. They like how your flavor of how you do stuff. So yeah, it's worked out really well for me, and it's made me thousands of extra dollars by listening to my customers and not just being like, no, I don't do custom. I don't do custom, but if I like your idea enough, I will do customs, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's important. You'll get messages, and just in general, and I don't want to get off track here, but it's very surprising. Well, I wanted to ask you a couple of things. How Etsy has led you, things that have happened positively because of Etsy, but we'll get to that. So the other point is just, where was I going with that? What was the other thing that you were saying? I totally lost track. See, I knew that was going to happen.
We're talking about custom, and that listening to your customer was extremely
important.
And
then you said something else there.
Customer.
You said something else that I wanted to reiterate on there. I cannot, I don't know. I totally got off track there.
Well,
It was gonna be great. It was gonna be earth shattering, and now everyone missed it. So they'll have to tune in next week. Maybe I'll remember and share it. But kind of what got me off track is what, listening to your customers get you more business. But just starting an Etsy business in general just kind of leads to things that you don't really, expect. Like for me, I did have a design. One of my shirts was featured in BuzzFeed a couple of years back, which brought me in a lot of extra sales. Nothing to like retire over, but it was still really cool. And it brought me a couple extra $1,000. Now I know you were featured. I'm not sure if this was actually because Etsy, but it's because you started your dog business, but you were featured in a couple of magazines recently, right?
Yes. And actually, this is how that started was the lady that runs the New York Fashion Pet Show. Mm-hmm. It's a fashion show in New York City. She contacted me because she discovered me on Etsy.
Yeah.
And so the first year she contacted me and I got the email, I responded by saying, "Is this a joke?"
Yeah, you do get some spam stuff. So you're like, is this real?
So she wrote back and, said to me, "No, we are legitimate. Let me show you some stuff. I've been looking at your things. I'd like to invite you to be in our show, blah, blah, blah." So the first year I did it, I had one dress in the show. I didn't know what it was doing. I mean, I researched all I could to see what would happen. The next year, I had 10 dresses on the walkway, and I had one of my customers that I designed a dress for contact me, and she said, "My little dog does a lot of shows and things, and I'd like you to help me with some of the designs." And I said, "Sure, no problem." Well, it turned out that she asked me if I would be willing to participate in a calendar. And so it ended up, I made the cover, and then I had 2 other months in the calendar with some of my designs. Well, then from that, the New York City lady this year, I have designed, she contacted me for this year. I've designed 15 dresses for her, just for her.
Oh, wow.
And now I have 15 more to design for myself. So now I have 30 dresses that will be on the catwalk this year. Plus, I was featured in one of the magazines, and then I was featured in another one. It's something dog. I can't remember the name of it. But then I just did a magazine shoot with several designs that I'll be the only designer in the shoot. And, they're submitting it to some major magazines. So all of that's really started because of Etsy.
Yeah.
I mean, no one would have known me and my little quiet spot on the map in Mississippi.
You're pretty much the Devil Wears Prada of dog designers, but a lot nicer.
Well, listen, that's another thing. You have to decide with your product what is going to be your niche. Mm-hmm. When people look at it, you want them to say, "Hey, that's a pretty Paws apparel." You just
reminded me of my earth-shattering point from earlier. Yes. So before I forget it, get sidetracked again. You were already saying this. People are probably be like, "What is going on with LL today? He is all over the place." But anyways, so yeah, so it has to be your niche. Like you have to be passionate about it. And that's what I wanted to touch on earlier, because I think a lot of people come at it from the wrong angle. Like you have to be interested in what you're doing and like what you're doing. I think some people just try to throw stuff up there to make money, and it never lasts. Like you have to be interested in, the design aspect of it or the creative aspect of it. And just maybe you're not sure kind of where your passion is, but that's why you can try a couple of things. But you're right, where if it doesn't bring you joy, it's going to be like a job. And that's not what we're trying to do. we're not trying to create another quote unquote job per se. We're trying to create something that we like doing, that is our job. That's kind of the goal, that's how we'll keep going at the end of the day. And it's not forced,
Well,
like it's not a chore.
right. And you know what, like I get excited
Mm-hmm.
when I've got this design in my head. And there are times where, I'll be already trying to go to sleep, can't go to sleep, got a design in my head. I will get up and sketch it out on a piece of paper
Oh, wow.
for the next day.
See, I
Okay.
have
So,
my phone, I have on the note on the iPhone, the notes tab or whatever, the notes part.
yes.
So like the same thing will happen to me. I'll think of a design and I have an ongoing laundry list of like
Yeah.
designs. I don't get out of bed and sketch it, but I will write the idea down wherever. It's always the weirdest times, right? Like you'll be like
Yes.
driving or you're just dozing off and you're like, I'll remember it in the morning.
Yes.
And you're like thinking about it for 5 more minutes. You're like, I'm not going to remember this in the morning. So then you
Right.
write it down. Or it's like just random stuff, you're out to eat and I'm like, oh, I got to write this down really fast. So, and when you sit down and try to think about like, hey, I need to come up with this idea, it never happens because it's the wrong time. You
Right.
can't
Well,
force it.
I think the thing too for me, which is extremely important for me, is I want it to be unique. Now, in my market, it is flooded.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's anything and everything from one end of the spectrum to the other. Okay. And so it's a tough market.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to ask myself the question, how do I rise above that? How do I get people to recognize that, yeah, my stuff is different? And so when I take that approach, when I look at it, I probably have seen about 5 competitors that I feel we're all in the same level.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and which is great because that's where I want to be. But then secondly, I don't want my stuff to look like theirs.
Yeah.
Because, hey, it's already out there. Okay. So I ask myself the question, what will I do that is different, that would interest people, and that people will say when they see it, automatically, they don't have to look at the tag, they know it's my design.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you'll set that niche for yourself. It doesn't mean that everything you do is going to look exactly the same.
It's your standard.
It's your standard. Yeah, it's your brand that you're putting out there that people are going to know you for that.
Mm-hmm.
What do they know me for? What do my customers tell me? They know me for quality. They know me for my uniqueness, my designs, and they know me for my customer service.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, those are the 3 most important things for me to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I'm just beginning. I have a long road ahead of me, but I'm just beginning. But those are things that are important to me to establish.
Well, they're your core values of what your brand represents. So I think that's important that you find that. And your niche is completely saturated, which it's funny, like you're still becoming very successful in a completely saturated niche. So that's why people get so frustrated, like, oh, I can't sell, my niche is too saturated, there's too many things, too many other competitors, and it's just it's a limiting belief, because there's a lot of buyers out there. There's millions and millions and millions. Half the world's not even on the internet yet. So
Right.
there's going to be even more to come. So
Yeah.
Don't limit yourself by thinking that way. Yeah, there's a lot of competitors, but how can you set yourself apart from the competition? Yeah, you're not going to invent something new. You're not going to reinvent the wheel. It's probably been done already, but how can you do it better with your own flavor out there? And over time, with consistency and trial and error and testing and quality and stuff like that, you can start to set yourself apart from the rest of the competition. on Etsy, especially because a lot of people make the mistake is they throw their stuff up there. It just looks like everything else, and they try to go as cheap as possible. And people don't want that, especially when
Yeah.
it comes to Etsy. Are willing to pay more for a higher quality item. Not to mention, if you're not making enough on it, what's really the point? If you're going as super low price,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
making $1 or
Yeah.
two.
What's that investment, return on investment here?
That's not gonna keep you happy. We're not trying to work for free here. Like, what are you
Right.
doing? Like,
I mean, I have a passion, but hey, there's a limit here.
yeah. So, I mean, I think that's super important. I think that's what's missed a lot. Going into it, people think that it's too saturated, or you need to go cheap, and that's not the case. You can make it work. And I love competition. Competition is great because that tells me there's a lot of darn buyers out there.
You
If
better
there's competition,
you better pay attention.
if you see one shop, with 100,000 sales, that gets me jacked up. I'm pumped if that's my competition, because that means that I can get there, at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
That's what
there's a
that tells
market.
me. I just have to
Yeah,
find my own way to do it, within
yes.
my own flavor, with what I bring to the table, my own creativity. So that's what's good. I like competition. If you get started on Etsy and no one is selling what you sell, that can be good, but chances are it's probably really bad because there's no market for it. So that's something to watch out for. There's people that do. I have seen some sellers that they come on Etsy and they sell some really cool, unique stuff that's just, there's not many people that sell it. And that's really awesome, but it doesn't really happen a lot. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And the question becomes, how many people are searching for it?
Mm-hmm.
What are they looking for and things like that. So,
Yeah,
and
important.
when going back a little bit to what we said about paying attention to your customers, you have customers who come and they'll like stuff in your shop. And Essie always shows you so-and-so like this dress or whatever, Well, if you look at their page and then you look at, well, what are the styles that they're looking at? And, if everything looks the same, okay, they've got 10 people to choose from,
Yeah.
because there's 10 shops that are making the same thing that looks exactly the same. So that right there, what that tells me is, okay, they're looking at me because they found something different that they like. And so it gives me the opportunity to evaluate, what do I want to do more of that could be a good seller for me, more customers, like you said, paying attention to your data.
Mm-hmm.
And, how many clicks is this getting, the style, things like that.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. So you do create stuff based on keywords as well to capture some of that. Okay. Yeah, that's a smart way to do it, within your own style, your own flavor. If you see some really good keywords that you want to, they're popular for a reason. So you can get direct some of that traffic to your listing. So that's good too.
So.
Yeah. So we can kind of, you're seeing some really good success. So to backtrack really fast, you used to do a lot of in-person sales and stuff like that. Would you say Etsy's better, selling online's better as far as that goes?
Oh, listen.
Because the only reason I bring that up is because a lot of people have done, and not so much anymore, but they still would do fairs and stuff like that.
We have a local little festival we have every year, and I do participate in that. I have participated in others, and I didn't approach, those type of events with a mindset that I'm going to go out and make thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My approach was, I want to be exposed.
Yeah.
If my goal was, if I could hand out, 300, 500 business cards that day, then I was doing good, because the return on that, where people were going to come to my shop online and see me. They had already seen my product. They had seen the quality of it. And so getting them to Esty, that was my goal. And I have to admit, I have picked up some very repetitive and faithful customers doing that. But you also have to decide, where do I divide my time? Because, you know, doing those kinds of events, if you've ever done them, they take time, they take energy, you have to set up, you have to bring down, you have to have enough product. I mean, you're not going to show up with 3 things and think you're going to sell anything.
Well, it's like I say, everyone should be a server one time in their life, and then they'll really understand what customer service is, and one of the toughest jobs is. You really learn a lot about yourself and customers being a server. But the same thing goes for doing a show or a craft fair, whatever you want to call it. You should do that at least once, to, you know, for one, it gets you face to face with your customers. You can learn a lot about what their reactions and stuff like that. It gets you some, you know, some business strategies and doing that whole thing. But you're right, it's very time consuming. It can be stressful. It's a lot of money up front because you don't know what to bring. You don't know what's going to sell. But a lot of people get caught up in that because they do ultimately sell stuff there. So it's like instant gratification, you know, when you do one of them. It's like it is a lot of work and to do it, but you get those sales and you see those sales coming in, and then you switch to online, you don't get any sales. You're like, oh, online doesn't work. I'm not even going to pursue this anymore. And that really is a mistake, because what people don't realize is, wow, you spent a day at that craft fair and you made money, however much money you made. A lot of times you're breaking even because you're making all that product ahead of time. You're preparing your signs, you're buying stuff for it, whatever you're doing there. But when you sell online, you're selling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But what you're trying to do when you set up in the craft fair, you're there, there's people there. But a lot of people, when they start online, they're set up across the street. They're not even in the realm of buyers yet. So that's the mistake that they make. They have to learn the strategies, the SEO, so they can come from across the street into where they're used to that craft fair with a buyer. So it's the same thing online in the virtual world. You're trying to get them across the street into the craft fair where all the buyers are at, so you can get more instant gratification. But if you can figure it out over time, like you're seeing, it's a lot less work, a lot less stress, a lot less preparation. And you're selling 24 hours a day. I mean, how awesome is that? You know, I think the sales, you know,
in person. Now, I have worked in my careers. I have worked with public almost all my life. Okay. And even being a human resources director. So when you deal with the public, you know, you're going to deal with a lot of stuff. And some things are going to be like, whoa, okay. And, you know, but you got to deal with it. Yeah. So I've had people, you know, when you're face to face, I've had people just go oohs and ahs, and they couldn't get enough. I've had others, you know, say to me, oh, there's no way. I'm not going to pay that for a dog dress. And I'm like, well, you know, there's some stores down the road. You can go there. I'm okay with that, but you don't have to insult me.
Yeah, it's like, well, there's plenty of people that will, so that's fine.
But you know, where you're online, if they don't want to buy it, they just click on. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to interact with that part of it.
Yeah.
I can say I have never had someone online try to barter with me so I could sell it to them cheaper.
Yeah.
You know, in person, yes, I have.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's a flea market.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
and so,
no, I'm not selling it to you for that.
You know, and so, or they have no clue of the time, the energy, the type of materials that it took and what goes into it. Okay. And so they're used to buying the, you know, $10 outfit down the street. And that's fine. I don't sell $10,
Yeah.
$10 outfits, and that's okay. You can go to the store that sells the $10 outfit. I'm okay with that. So that's another thing. And I think that, like, it goes back to what you were saying about the pricing. Um, knowing what is fair in your market. For me, I am not, trust me, I'm nowhere near the cost of some of the outfits I see. In fact, it surprises me sometimes that I see the price on some of these outfits. And then I'm, of course, not in the price range where it's like, okay, did we get this from China? I don't want that. So it's kind of like you're saying, you're finding that market. Well, for me, it was, for years, people would say to me, you don't charge enough. You don't charge enough for what you're doing. So I had to figure out the market that was going to be the right price range that really aligned with the quality of my product.
Mm-hmm.
So people knew, for me, it was, I had to get the product in people's hands so that they could see it was different, that the quality was different, the craftsmanship was different, and then it was worth the money that they were paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a challenge in trying to communicate that across, online in Etsy. So what you have to rely on your customer base. You have to rely on your reviews, okay? And then the other thing that's important is that you have to think and put some thought into how do you describe your products. Because if you only say a few words about it, well, guess what? The guy next door only says a few words about it too. So how are they going to know any different? And so I think that's another important issue when you're trying to sell something. And how are you going to make your customer feel comfortable in making this purchase?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and that's a problem that people have a lot of times too, is perceived quality. They shortchange themselves with, quality on online, is pictures and descriptions. I mean, that's how you get your quality across the board, or your point across rather. Reviews, you may not have those to start, but yeah, down the road, reviews will help you immensely, but you don't have those to start. So what you have to do is make sure that you're offering a quality product, amazing customer service, and then the reviews will come. But your pictures are really good, your descriptions are really good. There's a lot of things that you can say that in your description when you're describing how stuff's made, and the attention to detail, rather than just doing like a one sentence deal in your description. That's like that's like, am I looking
right.
a Facebook marketplace ad for a freezer? No, this is something that I spent time doing with my own two hands. So that needs to come across, like how you're creating that product, however you want to do it in your own words, needs to come across. Like, I literally do this with my own two hands, stitch everything. It's handmade. This is the real deal.
Well, and I think too that, it goes back to what you have said in our training about, you don't want 5 words in your description, but you don't want a book either. So then you've got to decide, how do I craft this in a way that gets the meaning across, but then also doesn't leave the customer with a bunch of questions as to, what they're looking for. Like for me, one of the things that I have not come across, I'm not saying it's not out there, but I have not come across, most of the items that I make, people do not make piping, if you know what that is. It's a trim that kind of goes on the edge of the fabric.
Oh.
And so this is piping.
Oh, okay. So it's like an added detail. It's
an added detail, but I make this from scratch.
Oh, wow.
So it's not something I buy. And the reason I make it from scratch is because it matches the rest of the dress.
Yeah.
So see, that's something unique for my products
Mm-hmm.
that you don't see out there. You don't see people, and plus, I think a part of it too is that people, it's not the easiest thing to do. So it takes some practice, one, to know how to make it, and then secondly, how to apply it to the fabric and sew it where it looks nice. Because sometimes if you don't sew it right, it's going to be loose and, you know, it's not going to, there won't be any quality to it.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier too. It's, you know, if you want to portray quality and you want to raise your prices, you know, little details like that will allow you to do that.
Yes.
Also, and set yourself apart from the competition, you know, in a saturated market, like little stuff like that. So, you know, it may be piping, which I didn't know about until just this moment. It may be something else, you know, if you sell jewelry, maybe it's a little bag that goes with it. You know, maybe it's a sticker that goes with whatever you're selling. Maybe it's think of something outside the box. It's not going to cost you a lot of money, but it adds value to what you're selling. There's a lot of things that you can do that will help set you apart from the competition with stuff like that.
I think also too, when you're thinking about the items you want to have in your shop, obviously when you're starting off, you know, you'll be limited because you're just starting off. But as you grow, you want to think about something that is what I call a eye catcher or a grabber or something that brings people to the shop. It's not going to be your most expensive item, but that's not important. What's important is you got them to the shop. For me, it's the bows, the little hair bows that go in the dog's, you know, head. I started with that. That is the least expensive product. I sell my bows way cheaper than most people who sell bows do. Why do I do that? Because that attracts people to my shop. And that's what I want. I want them on my page. From there, you know, I went from bows to hats.
I'm actually going to share your shop so everyone that's watching this can see it.
So you know, I went from there to hats. And now, you know, that's a whole different market. And that's another thing that not everyone does well with that, because like, you know, every other thing, people don't, not every hat just fits a dog.
Yeah. And a lot of dogs like to shake them off too, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. So you have to, like, if you'll scroll down, there's a hat, it's probably on the second page. The dress is called Ooh La La. And go down some. It's a little red dress. Here it is. So if you'll click on that little Ooh La La red dress, yeah.
And this, for people that aren't seeing this is Pretty Paws Apparel, the Etsy shop.
So you can see the hat there.
Oh yeah, that's super cute.
That was one of the New York fashion. That's one I designed for the show last year.
Yeah, I mean, you can just tell that adds to and now they get the hat with this dress.
They can buy it separately because some, like you said, some dogs don't buy the hats. You know, they'll wear the hat.
So this listing, they wouldn't get the hat.
Right. They'd have to purchase the hat separately.
So
and then you can see the pearls if they wanted a pearl necklace, but then you can see one of the little dogs down there.
Oh my God, that's so cute. So this is a good point though. Have you ever thought about adding the hat on this listing as an upsell?
Yes, I think the last picture, it's probably out by now, but if you'll see the last picture, the hat is there by itself.
No, I mean as an upsell on the listing itself.
Oh.
So you could do this. have this listing and then have
Uh-huh.
you set up your variations to include the hat as an upsell for an additional cost.
Yes.
So that's something that you can do too.
Okay.
Because people are, I mean, they're going to see this, and I guarantee if they're buying the dress, they're going to want that hat probably. I mean, maybe some won't, but they're more apt to want it because it's right here. So they're going to not see it here. So I guess they're
Right.
going to assume it's not there, or they may message you about it. But you can do this where you have the size. Basically you do this dress size, and then you set up
Uh-huh.
another variation that says
Hat.
include hat, and you have a variation that says
Okay.
no, and then you have to do no so they can select no, so it doesn't change the price. But then if they select yes, then it'll increase the price to whatever it is for the hat, and it's a one-stop shop. They're basically buying the dress,
Okay.
boom, I love
Okay.
the hat, boom, you just increase your revenue, when the person didn't even realize that they could buy the hat till just now. So
Well, and here, you know what, that's a really good point. And you were talking about how listening to your customers and how um, some things you hadn't even thought about, your customers suggested it. Well, recently for me is that I've had so many customers say to me, can you do a matching leash?
oh,
And now
that's genius.
it's like I'm selling leashes now like crazy. I haven't even had the time to put them up.
Yeah, I mean, you could, matching leash, like you could match a person's clothing to their dog's clothing, which
Oh,
is
listen,
super
I have
hilarious.
had, now remember we talked about something bizarre? I have had women say to me, I'm going to an event. I want you to make my dress and the matching dog dress. And we need hats, and I need a matching bow, and I need, a matching leash.
Oh wow.
And, at first, when I first started, I was like, okay. And now I say, definitely, we can do that for you.
I just love that makes me think of, have you seen where they you can get your dog's face on your shirt, and you have a
Yes.
dog's has your face on their shirt? Oh man, that cracks me up. I don't know if I would be able to pull that off, but it's super funny to think about.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, it's going down I mean, it's so amazing. Like once you start this journey, like it's just that it just opens up, you've had all these doors open up, and then it's like you're listening to your customers. Like it's right now, it's like, it seems like, where do you want this business to go? Because you got things going pretty good now, and there's so much more. It's just you're one person, that's
Well,
on to the next step. It's like you can only do so much.
you're absolutely right. I have to think about, okay, what do I want the next step to be?
Mm.
And how do I prepare for that next step? My next step in the back of my mind is we go brick and mortar. Okay. That we still continue to sell on Etsy, but we go into a shop, our own shop.
Mm-hmm.
I've sold in brick and mortar before, but it's never been my shop. Because honestly, I'm I'm growing out of my space.
Yeah, so if you gotta rent a space anyways, I guess it makes sense to have.
Then, and plus I need, that's another thing, I have someone that's working part-time with me, but honestly, I need someone just to tend to the paperwork,
Mhm.
get the orders, and, package up stuff, take them to the post office. It's like, there are days where I say to myself, I just want to design, okay? So everybody else, go away. But you can't say that. But it's all in the mix of how do you balance that,
Yeah.
and the person who's working with me, she's a really close friend of mine. And she asked me, why'd you pick me? And I said, you know what, first of all, I trust you. I trust you because I know that my level of quality that I expect. And if you can't deal with that, then, you're not going to be useful to me. But secondly, I said, you know how crazy I can get, because we'll say, hey, we can make this. Think about that. Oh my gosh, listen to this. Like, I haven't done this in a while because honestly, I haven't had the time. But I've made the matching dress with the matching carrier and matching leash.
Oh man.
I sold those faster than I could make them. Right now, I should be making them because that is such a hot holiday item. You know, I've had parents buy them for their, daughters' little dogs or gifts to give away. Uh, in fact, the lady in New York City asked me this week, are you going to bring some of those so we can sell them? I'm like, oh yeah. After I make these other 15 dresses.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's a good strategy too, to have a higher ticket item. That would be a higher ticket item for sure. And that's,
Yes.
Working in some cheaper items like you have with bandanas and stuff like that. And then you got
Yes.
your signature item, which is your dresses, then like higher tier. So that's something that I talk about with a lot of shop owners. Is a lot of times they have everything just one price. Well, you have to think about tiers of pricing. You bring in some of the lower tier buyers, and
Right.
you upsell them. You bring in higher tier buyers, and then you downsell them. That's marketing. It's a foundation of marketing that's been around for a long time. But creators, makers, they don't know that when they start, and that's no fault of their own. It's just it's a learned thing. So there's a lot of things you can do as far as pricing goes. But so what's to kind of wrap things up? I mean, what would you say? I mean, I pretty much know, but what's your biggest? Is there anything that I can help you with to kind of finish this call out, as far as your business or with Etsy or anything like that? Because I mean, you're at a really good place right now, but you're getting into obviously the bigger good problems, as we like to say.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think something else that's extremely important, whether you're starting out or you've been at this for a while, is you always need to remain, a portion of being humble.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that you always have to have an open mind that you can learn something. So when you look at it from that perspective, you're going to think of things you haven't thought about, like you said, by someone just saying something.
Mm-hmm.
And then something is going to click and say, oh my gosh, I could do that.
Well, yeah, you get too close to your business too. So sometimes you don't realize it. And I run into that too. I'll come up with something and I'll show it to someone. They're like, what is that? I'm like, oh, this is great. And they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, you're right. It's not. What am I doing?
Well, and the funny part is, I'll make something and, some of the people around me will say, oh my gosh, that is great. And I'll be like, no, it's not. No, it really is. And I'll say, no, it's not. It does not meet my standard.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's kind of a good and bad thing, because I have to decide, okay, where do I draw the line?
Yeah.
But I think that, that being able to bounce things off from you, being able to ask you questions. I've had some things happen on Etsy that I just didn't understand. I didn't know what was going on. Like the question about, remember I said the fees didn't add up?
Oh yeah, that's a common.
Like that.
People
well, after I did a little research,
Mm-hmm.
Then I realized what they were doing was they were charging a percentage on the credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought, gosh, I must have been asleep. I don't remember them ever saying they did that. So, but I learned, okay? So I think having that, that avenue of knowing that you have a place to go, that you can ask questions. I mean, who do you ask?
Yeah, it's tough.
So it is tough. And I think also it doesn't mean that you have to be in the same market to learn from each other. I think that people will experience some of the same challenges, and just being able to listen to people, how they've handled it,
Mm-hmm.
or open the discussion of how do you approach it. I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think for you helping me, what's comforting to me is knowing the fact that you're there for me when I need to ask a question or I'm not understanding something. I think that's important for
Yeah.
me.
I'm glad I could help you and provide that. I mean, it's really, one of the reasons why I started, this business, which I don't know if you saw, but spoiler alert, the name is going to change here very, very soon. I'm changing the branding
Yeah.
of Etsy Entrepreneur to, it's going to be Handmade and Beyond. So you're the first person to know that.
Oh, okay.
So I'm, the branding is going to all be changed. I'm going to pull the trigger here probably the start of October. But if you're listening to this, it's probably already happened by now. But but the reason I started this is because when I started, I didn't know what I was doing. I do come from a marketing background. I do have a master's in marketing, but to be perfectly honest, that has not helped me a single bit in being an entrepreneur. That stuff that
Yeah.
you learn in school you can't apply it to the real world. It's like
Right.
global marketing, supply chains, like this stuff that you can't apply to. So I was alone, being an entrepreneur is lonely. Like a lot of times your friends and family don't truly they're supportive. They don't
Yeah.
really understand what you're doing. Like you go and you talk to your husband or wife about, oh, my visits are down today. They're like, oh, that's stink. But then they're like
That's
they don't know what visits.
that's like my husband reading the sports page in the morning at the breakfast table, and he'll say, "Hey, guess what? Da 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 da," and then he'll move the paper and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was talking to someone who cared."
Yeah, it's the same thing. So
So it's like,
it's
I
nice to
have
have
to
a
be.
community of like-minded people that
Yes. Yes.
overarching strategies and best practices and stuff, customer service, that stuff is the same. Yeah, there's idiosyncrasies built in and stuff like that, but I learned just as much from you guys as you hopefully learned from me along the way, which helps me better serve the community in return from what I learned. And I'm always my shop now is pretty much it's still I still sell a lot. I still work a lot on it, probably too much, but it's my guinea pig as well. I'm trying
Yeah.
strategies all the time. I'm fortunate enough to be able to, my shop's pretty consistent now. Once I got it to, and that's one thing, once you get it to a certain level, yes, I'm still working in it every week. You have to, you can't let it idle.
Right. Right. It
But
doesn't run itself.
I've afforded it. I've got it to a place where I can test stuff where I don't have to worry about it hurting me if I do a pricing strategy or an A/B test or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or sale, I can test stuff out. And then I'm like, well, that didn't work. I'm not going to share that with anyone else. So it's nice to be able to have that, but yeah, just the community to go and talk and have a place and run things
Well, I
by.
think too, we kind of come from a family that has been in business, different businesses. Like I said, my youngest daughter has a SD business, and my son is a chef. He has his own restaurant.
Oh, nice.
So,
So you're a family of entrepreneurs, which is cool.
well, the thing is that what most people starting out can't even begin to fathom, because it's like, oh my gosh, that's so long, I'll never do it. You're not going to see a place where you're going to get to that's in your head probably for a good 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because you're starting out, you're learning, you've got to find the right products that people want, the marketing aspect, so you've got to be discovered.
Yeah, you gotta, it's cliche as
and it takes money. You can't start a business broke.
Yeah.
You've got to have some money. And if it's if it's starting out where you're truly depending on this to survive, that is going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, I think the most common complaint, like you said, is people are like, oh my gosh, I have no sales. Well, what you have to say to yourself is, I have no sales yet.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't made my biggest sale yet. Not that I'm never going to happen, but that it's coming. And then keep asking yourself, okay, what do I need to do that's going to change that scenario that will bring people to me? And just be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It's not for the weak-hearted. It's not for the impatient. It takes a lot of determination, a lot of confidence, a lot of consistency of working at it. And will you see ups and downs? Oh yeah, you will. But eventually you're going to get there. And it's kind of like for me to say, did I arrive yet? Hey, this is how my scenario, the way I describe it is, I have a figure in my head that when I get to this X number of sales, I will have a seat at the table.
That's
right
good.
now, I'm allowed to the front. I'm allowed at the door. So I'm not there yet. But, when I reach a certain point in my head, I will feel like I've made it. I have a seat at the table.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's super inspiring. And it's just, you got to take it, enjoy the journey. It's not going to be perfect, but you start small and you learn. It's good. It's a good thing to start small. It's a good thing to start slow. If you wake up one day and you have 3,000 sales, you're probably going to mess a lot of stuff up because you don't know what you're doing. You haven't learned yet. I started, I grew my business. I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 years on the side while I was a director of a pretty large company. I had 150 employees. I did Etsy on my lunch breaks, and I did it when I came home. After I went to the gym, worked out. So I was working, but I just did it every week. I just chipped away at it. A lot of times I did a bunch of work and I would get no sales. It doesn't happen right away, but yes, eventually it would come. And then it just, I wanted to make a couple $100 a month. I was like, oh, I'll be happy with that. And then I started hitting that, and I was like, I want to make a little bit more than that. So then I started hitting that, and then I was like, man, I wonder if I can make enough to replace my salary so I could stop working for the man. And that was my new goal, but that wasn't my initial goal. I didn't even think that it would work that way, But I worked up to that, and eventually I was fortunate enough to do that. But it was a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't see. They're like, oh, that person's lucky or whatever. And I hate that term because luck had absolutely nothing to do with it. Don't shortchange me and tell me I'm lucky.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Lucky is working every lunch break for years.
Yeah. Many sleepless nights when everybody's asleep and you're still awake, or this week, I am not kidding you. This week I had 3 sewing machines go down.
Oh my God.
And you're like, I thought, do I just sit in the corner and cry? But, I've learned from doing this, I can't do this with one sewing machine. It just doesn't happen. Okay. So if I don't have a spare or a backup, or I don't have the right kind of machine, like you said, the right equipment, I'm dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I've got 2 sitting there that I've got to decide, do I replace them or do I have them fixed? What's quicker? But so you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. I can confess, for the first time, and I'm so grateful this is the first time, I sent an order out the other day, and the lady had special ordered it, but she ordered the regular size. I didn't go back and check. I saw the regular size. I made it, sent it off, and she sent me a picture and said, I think I measured wrong. My little dog might be a little fatter. And I said, do me a favor. I told her how to measure the dress. And I said, no, I said, that mistake was mine. I said, I will own it. I will send you a new dress. I said, you know, she said, well, I want to order 2 more dresses. I said, go ahead and order the 2 more dresses. We'll make it the right size and I'll give you a discount. And she did it. And I was like,
awesome.
Okay, I made a mistake and I got 2 sales out of that.
That's your customer service, you know, that you
Yes.
went above and beyond.
Yes.
And, you know, you just have to fess up and be courteous and be kind and go above and
Right.
beyond. You know, I've refunded orders. I messed up this one order so bad. I can't remember what I did, but I blocked it out of my memory because it was so bad. I told her that I will send you three shirts of whatever you want right now. Since I botched your order, I think I missed a deadline and I guaranteed she would have it by, and I didn't go back and check that I had a note on which you can add private notes on your Etsy orders.
Right.
Which, for people that don't know that, if something needs rushed or something needs changed, they go in and add a private note, but then you have to remember to go back and look at the private note. But anyways, I sent her 3 shirts. I lost money on that deal, but I got a 5-star review out of it and I botched the heck out of that order, you know? So you got to go above and beyond when you make a mistake and make it right, and people will come back.
I had a lady who wanted a carrier. She wanted a custom carrier. So first of all, it had to be larger, way bigger than the carriers I normally made. Then she wanted it a particular type of fabric. And then the list kept getting bigger and bigger of what she wanted. And honestly, I did all I knew of how to get out of this sale.
Yeah.
Okay. I told her it was going to take a lot longer. I told her, you know, but I wasn't lying to her. I was being honest.
Yeah,
but I said to her, you know, it's going to take this long. I said, this fabric costs this amount of money. That's going to be way more expensive. You know, you're asking this, da, 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 da. And I said, and so, you know, when I calculate everything, this is going to be the cost. I thought she would say, okay, never mind. She said, I'll take it.
Like, oh, man.
I didn't want to make it because I knew before I even got the fabric, it was going to be a challenge, way out of my zone, okay? I think I had nightmares about making this carrier. I make the carrier, send it to her. She gives me this raving review. And then 2 weeks later, she calls me and says, the zipper is stuck. I'm like, the zipper is stuck? The zipper was not stuck when I sent it. She sends it back to me. I get it. I look at it. She's jammed it. I fix it, send it back. And she goes on and on. She's just so happy. I don't think I made $10 off that sale.
Oh, man.
Because this carrier was so big to ship it, it was so much money. And I refunded her to send the bag back. So,
but it's a learning experience.
It's a learning lesson.
Yeah.
That's right. Will I do that again?
Nope.
I don't know. I mean, it took a week to make on top of everything else. So, yeah, so you learn through those things. And sometimes you have to chalk it up as a learning experience.
Yeah.
Sure. And just know how you'll deal with it next time it comes about, if it does. So
it's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
For sure. As I keep saying, everyone's like, screw you, LL. Don't like this journey.
Yeah.
But
well,
keep chipping away, you'll get it.
People say, well, what do you do? And I say, I make pet apparel. And they'll go, they'll be like, what? I'll go, yeah, you should check it out, you know? And you know, of course, I get people who'll say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, well, that market ain't dumb.
Yeah, it's not dumb. You'll be the last one laughing, for sure.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up. I mean, it was that we could probably talk for another hour for sure. could probably talk all day on this type of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, you're in a good place right now. Like I said, there's a lot more that you can grow your shop, a lot of potential out there. So I think you're probably at a place where you need to hire another, what are they called? Seamstress? Is that what they call them?
Well, honestly, I do. The sad part is it's really hard to find. It's hard to,
well,
a lot of people will tell you they can sew,
Yeah.
Yeah, they can put a piece of material on a machine and press the button and make it go.
Mhm.
But crafting it to make it, at the quality of what I expect is totally different. And then, like anything else, you have to train that person and teach them. Okay. And so that, eventually, I'm going to have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any way of coming out of that. The other part of that, which I've kind of had they weren't the greatest experiences. I've had 2 experiences where one was in a shop I sold in, and another one was supposed to be a friend of mine who decided to come and learn from me and do their thing and not tell me. So one person decided, they were taking pictures of my stuff. And
so you got to get a non-compete.
And then I had a friend, I hadn't heard from her in a while. We live very close to each other. And somehow it just slipped one day in a conversation. And I said, "Are you selling dog clothes?" And I was like, and I mean, her response immediately was, "I have a right to sell dog clothes. Anybody can sell them." I said, "You're absolutely right. Here's the deal. You're now my competitor." Done deal. But so you have to take that into account.
Yeah.
Are people coming? Why are they coming? Because they think, "Oh, well, look, this is so easy, and wow, look at the money they're making." But they don't understand that person no longer sells.
And that may be one thing where you have them help you with a certain more, basic time consuming aspect, but you're the one that does the special flavor type stuff. So that may be something you look for. Obviously a non-compete is probably necessary. Obviously a trial period that you give them, like, hey, you get 60 days to see if this is going to work out. You're up front in the interview. Like, if this isn't, you say you have sewing experience, if you can't do this quality, then it's not going to work out. So stuff like that. Other things you can do to save you time too, because it seems like you make the stuff beforehand, right? You make it before you sell it.
Well, I do a little of both. I do some that if I feel is going to really be a good seller, then I make a bunch of it beforehand and then I put it out there. Others, I'll make some of it, but then people want custom orders. So just what I call a regular size is not going to fit the right dog. And what I've discovered is more of my customers are looking for custom sizes.
Gotcha. Well,
because
kind of what I was going with too is to save you time on that. It may be something that if you get, you could get a designer, a graphic designer to possibly do like a high quality mock-up. And you can list that before you make it or sell it to see if it's going to sell. And you can even label it as like a pre-order, so people will because they see your pictures are great, high quality stuff like that. The graphic designer can make a item pretty realistic. If you find a good one, it'll be pretty close, but people will still be able to tell it's not necessarily real. But you could also possibly pre-sell that, and that'll save you time from making it ahead of time before you even know if it's going to sell. That may be something that you want to look into as well. So then you can list a bunch of stuff. You list 10 items that way, and maybe 3 of them sell, the other ones don't. It doesn't matter. You didn't make them. You didn't lose anything. So that's an idea for you to kind of navigate through down the road. to help you get more listings up, because your problem is your time. You're making stuff and then you're listing it, so you can't get as many listings up because you literally don't have the time to do that as well as make your orders. So just a thought to kind of throw it out there for down the road to help you grow a little bit more online.
I think I shared this with you. Normally I don't have time. I'll hear that I get orders, but I don't have time to look at them most of the time during the day. I don't take the time. So it's usually in the afternoons or at night when I go through and see, okay, what's what. I had just laid down to go to sleep. I picked up my phone, looked at my orders. This lady ordered 18 items.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did, yeah.
I did not sleep. Like, I'm going through the order going, okay, how many do I already have in stock?
Yeah, you're like, holy smokes.
That is a first. I've never. And I thought, dang, how many dogs does she have?
Yeah, I got an order for, I think I got two 20 item orders. But the one order, the post office messed up and didn't get there in time. It was for like a luau party. It was like a Hawaiian shirt. So she sent them back and I had to refund all that money, and I had all these it was custom order too. Another reason why I don't do custom orders. So, so that stunk a little bit, but live and learn. But yeah, it's always awesome to see a bulk of orders coming in. So you're coming up on the holidays too. So you're going to be busy for sure.
And we do Mardi Gras.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So yeah, let me tell you that people think Christmas is big. No, Mardi Gras. People go crazy over Mardi Gras. So
that's awesome. But yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. It was, thanks for coming on the show and sharing your journey. I mean, it's definitely going to be inspiring, I think, to a lot of other sellers out there just to keep going. And that's why I always tell people, it's like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's, if you have the right mindset and you come into this knowing that it's going to take you a couple of years and it's not going to happen overnight, you're in a good place. You're putting yourself in a good place and a good mindset to be successful down the road. So, and what you've done is a consolation to that. You've kept working at it. You haven't given up. And now you're starting to see the fruits of your labor, which is really awesome. So I'm totally super excited to kind of see where you're going to take your business in the future.
Well, thank you.
And maybe you can give me some tips once you, get your brick and mortar and you get all these employees and stuff like that. I'll be coming to you for help.
Yeah. Well, I guess in closing, one thing I would say is that always remember, you never know who knows who. So, some of my word of mouth where customers have told other customers, or like the lady from New York City who found me, and then this other lady wanting, stuff for the magazines.
Yeah.
I never even dreamed that I'd be there. But so like I said, you never know who knows who. So, you just got to have that.
Putting yourself out there, starting the journey. So, but yeah, if you guys want to check out some awesome dog dresses, everything dog related and more to come for sure, you guys can check out Marie on Etsy, Pretty Paws Apparel. So it's etsy.com/shop/Pretty Paws Apparel. Do you have a regular website or a social media that you want to share as well?
I'm on Facebook.
Okay. Is it Pretty Paws Apparel as well?
Yes. Okay. You can find me there. So.
All right. Check out Pretty Paws Apparel there. Follow her to get your dog stuff. So, but thanks for coming again. Thanks again for coming on the show. So it was a pleasure talking with you. All right, guys, how cool was that interview? Marie is super awesome. Again, she is the owner of Pretty Paws Apparel on Etsy. So if you do etsy.com/shop/Pretty Paws Apparel, you can check out her stuff. She makes some really nice stuff. So if you need gifts, dog stuff, check her out. She's the best in the business. I hope you guys learned a lot from that interview and kind of hung on with it's a little bit of a roller coaster when selling online, right? It's a learning curve. You got to learn, you got to embrace the journey. But the main thing that we talked about is you have to stay consistent. You have to dedicate yourself to your business. You have to commit to your business, not for 5 days, not for a month, for many months and years. But once you have that mindset that this is going to be a marathon, but you're going to continue to push that boulder up the hill, you can grow your business into whatever you want it to be. You may have to pivot a couple of times like she did. She sold child's clothes. Now she's killing it with dog clothes. We've all been there and had to pivot, but follow your dreams, follow the journey, embrace the small wins. But if you would like to be a part of the Handmade and Beyond community, I would absolutely love to have you and work with you as well. We can dive into your business, brainstorm, learn the strategies and best practices to take your Etsy business and handmade business as a whole to the next level. At the bottom of the show notes or wherever you're watching this, there is going to be a link. You can get 30 days free in the Handmade and Beyond community. Join the other handmade sellers that are in there every day working on their business, growing their businesses. You can get help whenever you need through the help forum. You can watch the walkthrough videos in the strategies, masterclass strategy videos. You can join us in the live member-only coaching calls every month. I hope to see you guys in there. But until next week, have an amazing rest of your day.